My father died on a Thursday morning in March. Heart attack, sudden and final. By Friday afternoon, Patricia had changed the locks on his house. Security reasons, she explained to me on the porch. My childhood home suddenly forbidden territory. Your father would have wanted me to be careful during this transition period. I was 32 years old, standing outside the house where I'd grown up, being told I needed permission to enter. Patricia had been married to my father for 11 years, a whirlwind courtship that started 6 months after my mother's death. She was 53, an orthodontist with a successful practice downtown, always impeccably dressed and professionally warm in that calculated way that made you distrust every smile. I understand, I said quietly. I just wanted to get some of Dad's things. Photos, maybe his watch. We'll arrange that later. Right now I need to focus on handling the estate matters. You understand how complicated these things can be. I understood that she'd married my father when he was grieving and vulnerable. I understood that she'd systematically isolated him from old friends, convinced him to update his life insurance, and made herself indispensable. What I didn't understand was why she thought she could erase me from his legacy so easily. The family gathering happened 3 days after the funeral. Patricia hosted it at the house. My father's house, though she kept calling it our home. She'd set up the dining room like a corporate boardroom, with folders at each place setting. My aunt and uncle sat across from me. My father's business partner occupied the seat at the far end. Patricia commanded the head of the table, my father's chair with a leather portfolio spread before her. Thank you all for coming, she began, her orthodontist voice smooth and practiced. I know this is a difficult time, but we need to discuss the practical matters of settling the estate. She opened the portfolio and distributed documents. As you'll see, I've prepared a preliminary distribution plan. The house, of course, remains mine. It's in both our names. The investment accounts will transfer to me as the surviving spouse. The medical practice partnership will be liquidated and those proceeds divided. I scanned the documents. My name appeared once in a section labeled Personal Effects. Personal effects, I said. Patricia's smile didn't waver. Your father's watch, his golf clubs, photo albums, sentimental items. They're yours, naturally. The valuable assets need to be handled more formally. Dad's car is listed here under your assets. Well, yes, it makes sense for me to keep the vehicle. His coin collection, those are investment-grade pieces. They'll be liquidated along with the other financial instruments. My uncle cleared his throat. Patricia, shouldn't there be a formal reading of the will? We're looking at the will, she said, tapping the portfolio. I had our estate attorney draw this up last year. Everything is properly documented. I'd like to see the actual will, I said, with my own attorney present. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Patricia's professional smile hardened. That won't be necessary. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for everyone. Your father trusted me to handle these matters appropriately. Then there's no harm in a formal review. You're being difficult. Her voice had an edge now. Your father spent his entire life building something secure, and I won't let you complicate things out of some misguided sense of entitlement. My aunt stood. I think we should all take a break. Sit down, Patricia snapped. Then, recovering her composure, I apologize. This has been stressful for all of us. Why don't we reconvene next week, after everyone has had time to review the documents? The gathering disbanded awkwardly. As people filed out, Patricia caught my arm. I need you to stay. We should discuss this privately. When the house emptied, she led me to my father's study. The brass lamp, a heavy antique piece he'd inherited from his grandfather, still sat on the desk where it had been my entire life. Patricia closed the door and turned to face me, her professional mask completely gone. Let me be very clear, she said. Your father's estate is mine to distribute. I was his wife. I took care of him. I earned everything here. Dad would have wanted, your father wanted what I told him to want. She stepped closer. Do you know how easy it is to influence someone who's grieving? Your mother dies and suddenly he's desperate for companionship, for someone to tell him everything will be okay. I gave him 11 years of stability. That's worth more than some childhood memories. You're wrong about the will. Something flickered in her eyes. What do you know about the will? I know Dad met with his attorney 6 months ago. I know he updated everything. Patricia's jaw tightened. He told you that? He told me a lot of things, including that he regretted giving you so much control over his finances. You're lying, am I? She grabbed a stack of papers from the desk and thrust them at me. Sign these, they're transfer documents, disclaimers, releases. Sign them now and you can have the watch and photos and whatever other sentimental garbage you want. Refuse and I'll make sure you get nothing. I set the papers down without looking at them. I'm not signing anything until my attorney reviews Dad's actual will. Your attorney? Patricia laughed, a harsh sound. You work as a graphic designer making $40,000 a year. You think you can afford the kind of attorney who handles estate disputes? I'll manage. No, you won't. She moved toward me, her perfectly maintained professional exterior completely shattered. Your father's estate is mine to distribute. Mine, do you understand? I spent 11 years playing the devoted wife, pretending to care about his boring medical stories and his pathetic nostalgia for your dead mother. I earned every dollar of this estate. Get away from me. Your father's estate is mine to distribute, she screamed. Her hand shot out and grabbed the brass lamp from the desk. The antique piece was solid metal, probably 15 pounds. She swung it in a wide arc with all the strength of someone who'd spent decades adjusting dental equipment and handling resistant patients. The lamp caught me on the left side of my face. The sound came first, a wet crunch that seemed impossibly loud. Then the pain, white and all-consuming, radiating from my jaw through my entire skull. My legs gave out. The floor came up fast. I was aware of Patricia standing over me, breathing hard, the lamp still in her hand. You made me do that, she said. This is your fault. Then she was on the phone, her voice shifting back to professional concern. Yes, 911, there's been an accident. My stepson fell and hit his face on the desk. Please send an ambulance. I tried to speak. Nothing came out but a wet choking sound. My mouth wouldn't close properly. I could feel bone fragments grinding against each other. Patricia knelt beside me, her face close to mine. When they ask what happened, you tell them you fell. You tell them it was an accident. If you don't, I'll make sure you never see a penny of your father's money. Do you understand? I couldn't nod, couldn't shake my head, couldn't do anything but lie there while blood pooled under my cheek. The paramedics arrived within minutes. One of them took a single look at my face and called for immediate transport to the trauma center. Severe facial trauma, I heard him say into his radio. Possible mandibular fracture, significant soft tissue damage. Patient conscious but unable to speak. In the ambulance they tried to ask me questions. I couldn't answer. One paramedic gave me a small whiteboard and marker. I wrote, lamp, hit me, stepmother. The paramedic's expression changed. He photographed the whiteboard with his phone. The emergency room was a blur of activity. X-rays, Connecticut scans, people in scrubs speaking in medical terminology. I barely processed through the pain medication fog. Dr. Morrison, the maxillofacial surgeon on call, examined my scans with a grave expression. He was in his late 50s, with the careful movements of someone who spent his career reconstructing faces. Your mandible is fractured in 4 places, he said, showing me images I couldn't fully comprehend. Bilateral body fractures, angle fracture, and a symphyseal fracture. This is severe trauma consistent with blunt force impact. He pulled up a chair beside my bed. I still had the whiteboard. The paramedics shared what you wrote. Your stepmother did this. I nodded. Over what? I wrote inheritance. Father's will. Dr. Morrison's face hardened. I need to document this properly. This wasn't an accidental fall. Someone struck you with considerable force using a heavy object. The injury pattern is unmistakable. He spent the next hour taking detailed photographs, making extensive notes, and asking questions I answered by writing. Every movement sent agony through my jaw. You're going into surgery tonight, he finally said. We need to reconstruct your mandible with titanium plates and screws.
Screws.
Your jaw will be wired shut for at least 8 weeks. You won't be able to speak or eat solid food during that time. Recovery will take months, and you'll have permanent hardware in your face. I wrote, how bad? Bad enough that I'm documenting this as an assault-related injury in your medical record. Bad enough that I'm reporting this to the appropriate authorities. And bad enough that your stepmother, Dr. Patricia Hendricks, correct. I nodded, surprised he knew her name. She's an orthodontist. I know her professionally. We've been at conferences together. She serves on the Regional Dental Ethics Board. He paused. Or she did. After tonight, I doubt she'll have a license to practice. The surgery took 7 hours. They installed 4 titanium plates, one at each fracture site, secured with 16 screws, drilled directly into my jawbone. When I woke up, my jaw was wired completely shut. The first 2 months were a nightmare. I communicated exclusively by writing. My diet consisted of liquids and purees consumed through a straw. I lost 23 pounds. My daughter, who lived with her mother across town, cried the first time she saw me because she didn't recognize my swollen, distorted face. Dr. Morrison visited regularly, monitoring my healing and documenting everything meticulously. I've sent your imaging to 13 oral surgeons, he told me during one follow-up. They're all members of the State Dental Board Review Committee. I've also included my surgical notes, photographs of your injuries, and the documentation from the paramedics. I wrote, why 13? Because Dr. Patricia Hendricks's license to practice dentistry depends on the professional opinion of her peers. Those 13 surgeons need to see what she's capable of. Someone who breaks faces shouldn't be licensed to fix teeth. 6 weeks after the attack, Patricia's orthodontic practice received notice that her license was suspended pending investigation. Within 3 days, her practice closed. 18 employees lost their jobs. Hundreds of patients were transferred to other orthodontists. Patricia called me once, the day she received the suspension notice. I let it go to voicemail. You did this, she said, her voice shaking with rage. You ruined my career over an accident. I spent 25 years building that practice. 25 years. And you destroyed it with your lies. I deleted the message and showed it to my attorney. 8 weeks after surgery, they unwired my jaw. Physical therapy started immediately. Learning to open my mouth again, to speak clearly, to eat solid food without pain. My voice sounded different, slightly slurred. Dr. Morrison said it might improve with time, or it might not. 3 months after the attack, my attorney scheduled the formal reading of my father's will. Patricia arrived at the law office in jeans and an oversized sweater, the first time I'd ever seen her wearing anything unprofessional. Her orthodontic practice was gone, her license revoked permanently following the board review. She'd aged a decade in 3 months. My attorney, Mr. Brennan, opened the will document. This is the last will and testament of Thomas Bradford, executed 6 months prior to his death, and properly witnessed. Patricia sat forward. Mr. Brennan read the provisions methodically. My father had left me everything: the house, the investment accounts, his share of the medical practice, the car, the coin collection, all of it. He'd also included a letter. To Patricia, Mr. Brennan read, I leave nothing, as you brought nothing of value to this marriage except calculation and greed. You married me when I was grieving and vulnerable, but I was never as foolish as you believed. This house, these accounts, this life, none of it was ever yours. I hope you find whatever it was you were really looking for. Patricia's face went white, then red, then white again. This is fraud, she whispered. He couldn't have. We updated everything together last year. The documents you showed the family were forgeries, Mr. Brennan said. We've verified that with Mr. Bradford's estate attorney. You attempted to pass off fraudulent documents as his will. I touched my jaw carefully, feeling the titanium plates beneath the skin. I'd never be able to eat steak properly again. My face would ache in cold weather for the rest of my life. Airport security would always flag the metal in my jaw. But my father's house was mine. His legacy was protected. And Patricia, who'd spent 11 years calculating and planning and manipulating, had nothing. There's one more thing, Mr. Brennan said. The district attorney has filed charges: felony assault, attempted fraud and forgery. 2 police officers entered the conference room as if on cue. Patricia stood slowly. This isn't fair. I took care of him. I earned this. You earned 2 years in prison, I said, my voice still slightly rough from the injury, and a revoked dental license. They handcuffed her and led her away. She didn't look back. 6 months later, I stood in my father's study. My study now. The brass lamp was gone, donated to a charity shop. I'd replaced it with a modern desk lamp that weighed less than a pound. Dr. Morrison had sent me a final note after Patricia's conviction. The 13 oral surgeons who reviewed your case asked me to pass along a message. Justice was served, and they're glad you recovered. They also mentioned that Dr. Hendricks will never practice dentistry again, anywhere in the country. I ran my tongue along the inside of my mouth, feeling the slight irregularity, where titanium plates held my mandible together. 4 fractures, 16 screws, permanent hardware. But the house was mine. My father's legacy was protected, and Patricia Hendricks was serving a 30-month sentence with 5 years probation. I thought about my father's letter, how he'd known, even while dying, exactly who Patricia was, how he'd protected me the only way he could, with a properly executed will, and a letter that laid bare her manipulation. The titanium plates would be in my face forever, but they were also a reminder that some victories cost something, and that justice, when it finally arrives, comes with the weight of medical evidence and the coordination of 13 professionals who understood exactly what they were looking at. My jaw ached as the evening temperature dropped. It always would. But I was standing in my father's study, in my house, with his legacy intact and his final wishes honored. Patricia had wanted to distribute his estate. Instead, she distributed her own career, freedom and future into the hands of the same justice system she'd thought would never touch her.